everyone. Welcome. It's September 25th, 2025, and you're here for another Oracle Apex office hours. My name is Jason Haynes, and I'm an Apex product manager, if you didn't happen to know that by now. So today we're joined with some special guests who I'll announce in just a minute. This is going to be a what's new in Flows for Apex, and Flows for Apex is releasing version 25.1 of their solution. But first, we're going to talk about some announcements and updates really quick. We have the Apex newsletter that is now in its fourth installment. We just released the September edition with Get to Know Carlos Maciel. And Carlos is one of our Apex development team members out of the MDC Mexico Development Center in Guadalajara. So it's a great read with a lot of great content, more blog posts, events, some success stories, and so forth, all available at apex.oracle.com/go/newsletter. So a lot of our links follow this pattern, apex.oracle.com/go, with whatever the shortcut may be. So keep that in mind, especially if you don't manage to get in to that link immediately in your browser. Further, we also have apex.oracle.com/shortcuts. So also remember that until the end of October, October 31st, you can actually take the test at Oracle University to become recognized as Apex certified for free. So this is an opportunity. Go ahead and take the training, which is free, and then you can actually take the test and become Oracle Apex certified. It's normally a for-cost opportunity, so just keep that in mind. This QR code will take you to the link shown here, which is also one of our Go shortcut links. Of course, also, there are many other certifications available at Oracle that are also being offered for free until the end of October. Upcoming in-person conferences, the biggest one of note is going to be the Oracle AI World in Las Vegas, just a few weeks away, October 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th. Some of the Apex team will be there in person, especially myself included. We'll have a demo grounds booth on the exhibit hall floor. We have 10 Apex sessions being delivered by the Apex team. 4 of them are hands-on labs, so it's going to be a very exciting opportunity to come to AI World and learn all about Apex, either by the hands-on labs or with all the general sessions. And there are many other Apex sessions also being offered at the event. Again, apex.oracle.com/go/events for more information for other Apex events, either next month, the month after, or whenever they're being published. So to get things started, we'd have a quick poll with 2 questions. Let's go ahead and kick that off, please, Sonia. Thank you. Please go ahead and take a look at this. Do you use Flows for Apex in your apps? Now remember, Flows for Apex is an open source solution for doing BPMN 2.0 type workflows. It is not the native Apex workflow. We'll give that a few moments. All right, so the majority of you are not using Flows for Apex. This will be a huge opportunity for you to learn much more about the opportunities behind this solution. So if you have any questions today, please post your relevant questions based on the topic of whatever's being discussed in the Q&A section of Zoom. Do not use the chat to ask questions. If your question involves a deeper understanding, please post it on the Apex forum at apex.oracle.com/forum, where we can then follow up after the session. Let me introduce today's speakers, Moritz Klein from Hyand and Richard Allen from Flowquest. We'll get started with Moritz and then move on to Richard for all the demonstration of all the goodness with Flows for Apex. Over to you, Moritz.
Good. Let's start sharing. Off we go. So quicker on me. You can read that later. Main point is doing Apex/HTMLDB for all the old timers since first release. I'm currently an ACE director, doing a lot of things. One of the main developers for Flows for Apex since its inception. Doing Apex meetups in Frankfurt, and yeah, I work for a consultancy company called Hyand as a senior principal consultant. Let's go into the topic. So Flows for Apex, as Jason mentioned already, is what I call a third-party extension for Oracle Apex. It's not Apex itself, it's not native workflow, but we'll come to that. It's an open source community project. This is where I'm saying here community edition, spoiler for what's coming up later. Just so you should be on a rather recent version of Oracle Apex to be able to run that, and you should be on Oracle Database 19c plus. I've put in like all the companies that support us. One of those is Hyand that I work for, which we have Oracle, we have Solicon IT from Austria, we have Talan at various cases, and we have Flowquest, but Richard will do something on Flowquest later pretty much. So a quicker on what are key differentiators between Flows for Apex and Apex workflow. So the native workflow features in Apex. Flows for Apex is doing BPMN 2.0, which is a specific standard that we are following. Native Apex native workflow uses a different standard that is within Apex. One of the other key things is that the process data, everything around the process installed in the schema that you're using, in the database schema that you're using. We are delivering all the tables, packages, whatever, into your schema. You decide where to install. What we have employed also as a difference is that we typically have model your process first, pretty much as a step, like a rough draft, think of requirements engineering, and then start implementation later as you build and details. Whereas in my experience with Apex native workflow, you need to have your parts ready that you wanna click together. Typical question we get asked is, what's like, should I use this or should I use the other one? I mean, that's typically answered with it depends. However, you're not forced into one corner or the other, because the Apex team and the Flows for Apex team together, we make sure that we have good integrations between both workflow engines. You can use them in parallel, and that's totally fine and works really good. So, quick heads up, what's new in Flows for Apex, sometimes abbreviated like that. These are a couple things that we have new. I will focus on pretty much two parts here, which is improved Apex human task integration and the AI agent service task. I mean, in today's world, it's pretty much AI. I also quickly talk on error boundary event, but that will just be like an information for you and not a demo. Okay, so what's AI service task? It's a BPMN service task. This is a definition inside BPMN, and we use that to interact with Gen AI. In behind the scenes, we're using interfaces that Apex gives us, especially Apex AI. And the idea is you trigger a call to AI, send some data over, whatever you want to send over, maybe get some decision points back, or in our case, hey, I have this and this information. I need to get something else from the person that sent it to me. Can you write a mail to retrieve additional details? We think it's a simple and easy method to just add AI to your business process. And yeah, I'll show a quick example of that now. Let me switch here. Okay. So what I did is prepare the process a bit upfront, so that's just that I'm sure I get the answer from AI that I want, because it's same input doesn't always mean same output, as you might know. So I've kicked off the process, which I will show how to kick off this. It's like a really simple taxpayer form that we're using, where you input your name, age, occupation, tell a bit about your salary. It's really just a simple demo. So I've kicked off the process with some data, and now I go into like the role of a tax clerk, maybe. So I have this open, and there's something which I inserted for the demo is like, okay, let's check this quickly. I have some data entered, German-speaking people will know this name by heart. And I can have a quick look on the response. It's for demo parts, so I have a quick look in between. So we're creating a prompt in the backend. This is really relevant to have a good prompt where we tell the AI, okay, you're part of a fraud detection workflow. Here are a couple of taxpayer details, and we're tell like, okay, give me in a specific format, give me some information back that I want to use, and we give some example plus just the taxpayer information that I previously entered on the form. And this is really funny because I wanted to actually give me, it should ask for an email. So I have to try that again. It's typical. But in this case, AI said like, okay, this should probably be checked by a human, and there's also a rationale behind it why it is like that. I'll just kick it forwards, which interestingly takes a while, but okay. So that was a display error. Okay, it's fine. This is my new set of tasks that I have to do. If I quickly go over to the process diagram and let it refresh. Or I see here, so I had AI hand me back the response that I had. I checked it quickly, see here just for demo, and then I entered like a decision point where I can go one or multiple routes in this case. We have in here is like, okay, human review was triggered and an email generation was also triggered to maybe ask for additional information. So the workflow would be, okay, I as a clerk have both these items in my inbox that we're seeing here, where it's like, okay, let's check the mail on that. I hope this is readable. I have to admit it's written pretty good. It feels like kind message, but the undertone is very obvious on this. Also to note, like AI thinks a Kscope ticket is very expensive. I tend to not agree, but yeah, it's up to AI in this case. So I can review the mail and say like, okay, this mail is fine, or I'll reject it. I want another one. Your typical workflow would be you review that, take the input, maybe modify a bit and send it out. So it's all about being more efficient. I have a pre-generated mail where I just have to do a couple of things. So let's just send out that mail. And no, we're not sending it right now, but in real life you would send it. The other part that I had to do was like, I should review that case, which pretty much brings up the same screen that I've seen before, where I can like, okay, this is what we handed over. I can also look in a structured way on what was the input data. I can look at the rationale. Now maybe I can like pull up some additional information that only I can access that shouldn't be handed to AI, or I could start enhancing information with other stuff. But let's say I received the email with additional clarification, so I can now decide, okay, it's fraud or it's no fraud. I'm feeling generous today, so let's just say no fraud. And for this part, I'm done. If I go back to the process diagram in here, let's quickly refresh that. I can then see which routes were taken pretty much. I was like on review email, I had a human review, and finally we said, okay, that there's no fraud found. This is a good example how you can like orchestrate AI with a workflow engine. Yeah. I'm not going to try that again because I don't want to have another response again. So this is a quick example, orchestrating AI, and then, well, you can look at other things that you can do with that. So there's a lot of possibilities, I think. I will quickly go back because I want to show one thing in the background. So you've seen like 3 screens that we're using. So I have a review AI response, which makes use of the JSON region plugin by Uwe Simon. Really nice thing because I can have like very flexible forms defined dynamically. We're using that heavily with flows for Apex, so you will see references to that. And the other 2 pages are human task and approval task, or action task and approval task is the right wording. So this is where our integration comes along. So we're using like the native workflow features from Apex, which is a good way to quickly set up like task pages on that case. We'll skip the SQL query. One thing I want to note, and that comes later in the slides also for reference. What we do currently is we provide an API so you can control potential owners and business administrators. And this is, by the way, set up wrong. I just noticed. Based on what you have defined in the Flows for Apex process. So if your Flows for Apex process is the one controlling participants, then define it on your workflow diagram and Flows for Apex and integrate over into native workflow features in Apex. We have a really good explanation how to set this up. Check it out on flowsforapex.org, and I can testify it's really good because I had to learn that part pretty much on creating it. I only knew the backend stuff beforehand, and I used our documentation. It was really easy to get it set up. So we can integrate with an action task and an approval task and control our workflow based on that. Just to have a quick look, ignore that warning. If I want to set up AI generation, it's pretty much which service do you want to use. That's an AI service defined in your workspace. You can set the temperature, you can give it a prompt, which could be based on a variable that we have inside or static, whatever you want to do. And then you can have a variable where the outcome is put into. Going over to like a human review, which is an Apex human task, where I just point to the task definition that I've created, set a couple of variables which are predefined if you just click the buttons, and then just say, okay, where should the outcome be handled in this case? I've just put a variable in there, so this is an easy integration with Apex human tasks. Okay, back to slides, AI stuff. Okay, I'm really fast, that's good. So one thing that I said I'll just talk about in a slide. So if you have PL SQL calls, and we have that for service tasks, for script tasks, and other types of tasks, I mean, it could happen if you call something, some outside API, that something goes wrong, or you're trying to query some data, it gives you a no data found, and this is actually a use case that it's not a hard error, it's something, oh yeah, okay, that can happen, but I have a path I can go to where somebody might fix that, and then we come back. Previously, that was really hard to implement, I think, and I think every PSQL developer should know how to use exceptions. Maybe a hot take, I don't know. But what we now offer is that inside those tasks, you can raise a specific exception that's named here. So you can easily read that up or in our documentation. And this will not trigger a process error. Instead, it will say, okay, this is a so-called error event that we're raising BPMN. So it's like a business error which you can handle, and then you can go over it. Probably will make your processes way neater and you can do way more things. Just on a side note, you can use that. I've talked about human task. I've included it here because we put the presentation afterwards on our page, so you can have a quick look or reference to it. Thing to notice for the business administrator on a task, you can specify on the task itself. So very specific, you can say like, okay, for that diagram, that process / that process, it's always that person unless otherwise specified. And or you can say for the whole workflow engine, flows for Apex, we have a default business administrator available. We've also worked on our plugins, which give you more information. And the first topic, like with Apex Human Task Cleanup, we now have a means to remove Apex native human tasks that were created because of something that Flows for Apex did when we, for example, killed a process that was responsible for creating that. So if you have two engines working together, you need a couple of ways to get out of jail at a certain point in time. And lastly, we are showing the human tasks that were created based on a process also in our flow monitor. Good. So, which leads me to, I've talked about Community Edition. There's a lot of stuff in there. There's also Flows for Apex 25.1 Enterprise Edition, which is done by Flowquest / Richard Allen. This slide is just for overview. I'll hand it over to you, Richard.
Okay, thanks, Moritz. I need to share. So now let me talk about the Enterprise Edition. A quick introduction. I'm Richard Allen. I've worked in Oracle a couple of times, been using Oracle, I think, for 41 years. I've been working on flows for the last 5 years. And for the last 18 months, I've created my company Flowquest to work full-time on flows for Apex so that we can provide support for some of our enterprise customers and continue the development of flows with some dedicated resources. So the Enterprise Edition includes everything that's in the open source community edition. It's a commercially licensed product from my company Flowquest, and that provides support, which is key for many people using open source software in enterprise environments. And the support we get from customers using that means that we're able to not only develop the Enterprise Edition, but also continue developing the Community Edition and ensuring its quality as we go forwards. So in 25.1 for the Enterprise Edition, we've focused mainly on features that help you to manage and administer and make more reliable enterprise operation of flows for Apex. And several of those are around the problems you get when a flow goes wrong, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So we've added process suspend and resume, process rewind, the ability to force next step. We've added some inbound message queuing to our message flow. And I'm also going to talk about a couple of the community edition features that really are sort of that we've added in this release, because they're sort of foundational for the enterprise features that I'm going to show you. So I'm going to show you the additional logging that we've done in this release. So in the real world, we all know everybody in the IT world knows that things sometimes go wrong. If you have a process, you define in BPMN how it should work, and on most days it does work, but sometimes you end up with some bad data, or a user makes a bad decision, and the process goes in the wrong direction. If that's a long-running process, then you don't want to just stop and restart the process again from the beginning. So you need the way to be able to control the process to fix it and make it do what it should be doing. And this is, a feature for administrators to be able to take control, particularly of long-running processes. I mean, in this example here, I've created a little process diagram for, a specialist heavy engineering manufacturing company where they design custom parts for a customer. They manufacture them, and this design and manufacturing process may take, several months. They plan the shipping, and depending on how big it is and where in the world it's going to, some bits may go by air, other bits may go by ocean freight in a container, other bits may go by truck. And then you dispatch the goods and ship them. And if something goes wrong in somebody orders the wrong sort of transport, you don't really want to go back, cancel the process, and start all the way from the beginning, because you've already designed and made these things. You want to be able to step in and fix the process. So the first feature we've added in here is, this is sort of a minor one. If you have an error in a process and you have a fault on, or an error on one step in the process, until now you've had the option to restart the step, and this enables you to go and fix some data and start the process step again. Sometimes you either can't fix it, or you know that it doesn't matter, and you can safely ignore the step. And so we've added the ability to force the next step on the process. And you can do that without having to suspend the process. So you can do this on a running process. Obviously, this path through the process is stopped by the error. I can give you one real example of a customer who had a lot of reminders which had been sent out by the system to remind users that approval needed approving. And because of an error when they turned on the system, and they had their email system was capacity constrained, then a lot of these reminders turned into steps that were in error. Now, we knew that it wasn't a problem in the real world, that these reminders didn't go out. And so the administrator was able to just force the next step, or with this feature, the administrator will be able to force the next step and just move the process on to the next step. Okay, so then the next feature we've added in is the ability to suspend and to resume a process. And this enables an administrator to suspend work on a process instance that's running. Any user tasks become suspended. Any script tasks or automated tasks that are currently running are allowed to complete until they finish their current step. They can't proceed on to the next step. If there's any message flow, then those messages are held, and any timers in the process are suspended. And this enables an administrator either to take something offline, or enables them to rewind, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And then when a process, when you want to resume the process, then you can return it to its running state, and any tasks are restarted, any timers that were held, and any messages that were queued get released, and so the system can carry on. And then the third feature in here is process rewind. And if you have a process that's gone in the wrong direction, you want to be able to reset it. So you start off by suspending the process, and then you can rewind. Now, in a process that only has a single path through the process, then rewinding or repositioning the process is fairly simple. But in a BPMN process, like we have running with flows for Apex at the moment, we have sections that can be parallel, so they can have parallel processing. They can have sub-processes. You can have call activities where part of the process is contained in a different diagram. And so this creates a fairly complex environment in which to rewind things. And you can't just take one of your parallel paths and say, well, I'm going to move this activity to somewhere else, because you have to recognize that it's part of a parallel structure or it's part of a sub-process. And so rewind becomes a little bit more complex. In this example here, we have a process, and the shipping planner originally started to ship plan to ship these goods part by air and part by truck, and then after talking to the customer, decides that actually they need to all go by ocean freight. And so what they need to be able to do is to suspend the process, rewind, and then make this decision again. And so it goes forward in that path. And let me show you that how it works. And obviously, what we are doing here is resetting the workflow engine to be on the right paths. We're not changing the underlying task. So if one of these tasks went and booked some air freight, then you would need to go and clean that up outside the system. But we're giving you the tools here to be able to realign the workflow to where you want it to be. So here I have that process. Let me just move Zoom out of the way. And here I have an instance of the process. And I'm going to, I have it a process. Let me start this process. And you can see the process has moved on to this first step of design. And then I can step it forward to loading the order to the factory. And now I'm planning shipping. Obviously, those step forwards will be done in the application, but I'm just showing you this from the console to show you the mechanics of the workflow. Now, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm going to show you two lots of rewind. First of all, I'm just going to suspend this process now. So as an administrator, I can suspend this process. And you can see that the process is now suspended. Oops. And then what I can do is I can take this path. What I'm going to do is I'm step this back to, so I come onto here, the rewind actions, and I can rewind this to an earlier step, pick one of the valid steps. So I'm going to rewind this one all the way back to the design stage, can provide a comment which gets put into the logs. And you can see that this path is now the current step is now the design custom parts, and it'll restart on that once I resume the process. So I can make multiple rewinds, and then when I'm ready to go, I can resume the process, and you'll see that we're back on that original path. Let's move this forward again. And our shipping plan is that it should go by air and by truck. That's our original plan. So let's step it forwards, and you can see we have the air path and the trucking path moving forwards. Let's book our air freight. And then the customer calls and says, I really need this to go by ocean. So what we can do is go and see our administrator who can suspend it. Process is suspended again. Now, if I rewind this, I'm inside a parallel section. And so I can't just move this task to this ocean freight task because I've got these other parallel things. So the best thing I can do is go back to this decision point, change the decision criteria, and then go forward again. So what I'm going to do is pick one of those forward paths, rewind this back to its previous gateway. And you can see the current task is now the gateway. These other tasks are all marked to be deleted when the process resumes. I'm now going to change the process variable that was used to determine the way it's going to ship. And my keyboard is not working. Sorry about this. It's now, I've changed the process variable. Let us now resume the process. And as we were on the gateway, it automatically moved forward using the input to the decision. And so we're now we're now booking our ocean freight. The book air freight task, which had completed before, is still shown as having completed. I think that's useful because the task did complete. And so obviously you need to go back and change, you need to go and unbook that. And then the process can continue forwards. Now, as part of doing this, we felt it was necessary to increase the logging that we were already doing in the system to include a lot of these step events. So we added step event logging into the process, into the logging system that we have. And I think I felt that we wanted to highlight things that are done that are abnormal in a process. So you may have noticed that this yellow administrator intervention badge appeared once we had done a suspend or resume or a repositioning of the process. Let me show you the, or let me just go back. We've also added that into the list of processes that's currently running in the monitor. So as an admin, you can see which process instances have been manually reset or restarted. Because if you're looking at incidents, the stuff that's happened that's unusual is where you want to be focused on. And we go back into that process and look at the instance timeline. You can see we've got very granular logging, and you can turn on how much logging you want to have at system level. You can define it at a diagram level. So always when I run this shipping process, I always run with maybe more logging than when I run my apply for a car park space process, where I don't really care too much about having an audit trail for that. And then I can turn on auditing, logging at a higher level for debugging if I'm a developer and I'm debugging a particular fault. And then we can, using a faceted search, we can filter out just the abnormal events that occurred in here. Okay. So that is the enhancements we made to logging. We have made it so when a process completes, we take all of the log records for that process and bundle them up into a single JSON document, which can then be stored either in the database or in object storage. And then you can keep it for as long as you want. We have defense and high security customers who would need to keep their all of their audit records in a way that they can forensically analyze what happened for 7 to 10 years. And so typically what they do is they bundle all of this stuff up using the automation that's part of the product, put it into OCI object storage on a medium tier, which means you can access it straight away. And then after 2 years, there's a rule defined in the object storage to move it to cheaper storage, where you can retrieve it at 3 hours notice. And then after 8 years, it gets deleted automatically. So I think that's useful auditing, and you can see enough from the document to actually figure out what happened. So that's process rewind. Now I've shown you this on a relatively simple environment. Those of you who know flows for Apex will know that we have this model in the tutorial, which we call the full Monty, which is sort of one of everything that you can build with the BPMN that we support. And the good news is, well, there's two bits of good news. The first bit of good news is I'm not going to go into the middle of this and rewind it because it's fairly tedious and you'd get very bored. But the second bit of good news is I have actually gone through that exercise, and you can, from almost anywhere in the model, get back to the beginning by rewinding. And so I think that the rewind feature gives you a lot of ability to solve those real world problems when you have a process that's gone the wrong way through either a bad user or bad data. Because every process deserves a second chance. How are we doing for time?
You got about 10 minutes, 13.
Okay. I can show you one more thing. Sorry, I've got my keyboard in front of me has stopped working. So let me show you one of the other features that we have implemented, which is a little bit architectural and so you can't see too much of it, affects the way that we do message flow. Now, we implemented message flow in Flows for Apex 24.1 Enterprise Edition, and that allows you to have multiple BPMN processes which communicate with each other. And so in this example, zoom in on this a bit, we have a customer process, and the customer orders things from a supplier by sending a PO to the supplier. When the PO gets to the supplier, it kicks off a process on their systems to prepare an order, send a sales order back to the customer. When the goods are ready to get and to be shipped, they prepare the goods and they instruct a shipping company to do the logistics for them. And these three processes could be running on the same Apex installation, or they could be running on three different servers in three different companies. And these links can either be within an Apex installation, or they can be using REST to go across from one system to another. And in 24.1, we added the ability to start a process from an incoming message, to be able to do to omit a message when a process completes. And so in 25.1, what we've done is to make sure that these are decoupled a little bit better by putting a queuing system using Oracle AQ in where the process receives its messages. So the messages go into a queue and then immediately get served. And so the database picks that up and moves the process forward. It also means that when we suspend and resume a process, then we can hold a queue. So let me. That's a bit small, isn't it? So let me kick off this first process. And here I'm the customer, and I have started the process, and I've sent a PO to the supplier. If I look at my running processes, you can see that I just started a process at the supplier. If I log into that, you can see here's the supplier's process. It started, and it's currently on that step. If I go back to the customer, I'm going to suspend their database, or suspend their process, because the DBA wants to fix something or just take it offline for some reason. Then I go back to the supplier. I can move this process on, which sent a message back, sent the sales order back to the customer. And even though this process is suspended because it's in the queue and it's being held in the queue. So now if I go back to the customer process, you can see that this is suspended. That message didn't get processed. This is a message receive event. So when I resume this, the message gets processed and the workflow moves forwards. So queuing makes suspend and resume not only decouples these processes, but also helps us to do suspend and resume. So to sum up what we've done in Flows for Apex 25.1 in the two editions, the community edition, we added the AI service task. And I think using AI inside a process, both for making decisions and also for generating documents and text, I think that's going to be huge. We've enhanced the way we use Apex human tasks and made that much more reliable. We've enhanced our event logging. We've added the script task boundary events, which I know was requested by several of our customers, several of our users, and we've enabled you to set the process naming from inside your diagram using a mechanism that's fairly similar to the Apex task subjects for those of you who use Apex human tasks. And then in the Enterprise Edition, we've added suspend and resume, process rewind, force next step on error, and inbound message queuing to make deployments of and administration and use of Flows for Apex more reliable and easier to administer. The release was the 25.1 was released yesterday, and the community edition is available from the GitHub release area already. The enterprise edition, I'll be contacting the licensed customers for that. For those of you who are using Flows for Apex already, if you want to do some more detailed training on these features, we're going to do a 3-hour online course on Zoom on October the 21st. If you can sign up from the QR code. We have also put quite a lot of effort in this release into enhancing the product documentation. That is now live on the flowsforapex.org website. And there should be a lot more information there on how to use various features in Flows. We will also I will also start doing some regular online training courses for either beginners or for advanced users on a regular basis. So look out for announcements about that in due course. The websites for Flows for Apex, you can go to flowsforapex.org or look at flowquest.net for the Enterprise Edition. And feel free to contact myself or any of the other members of the team. Contact details are on the website. And I think I just want to finish off by acknowledging the hard work and support from the people who work on the Flows for Apex team, who've been working on this stuff for the last 4 or 5 years. From Hyand, Niels, Moritz, who you saw earlier, Dennis Amthor, Louis Moreau from Talan was in some, and Jörg Doppelreiter from Solicon. As you can see, this is quite a significant piece of software. It's a hobby for most of these guys. The Enterprise Edition and makes me able to do it full time, and that supports both releases. So now we can go to Q&A.
All right. Thank you, Richard, so much for that presentation, and Moritz as well. This has been a great overview of the new features in Flows for Apex version 25.1. We've had a lot of good Q&A. I see at least, I think, one outstanding question. They were asking, can we please see the new event logging from the workflow that you were showing that you suspended and rewinded? Did you actually do that? Do you know?
I did that.
Yes.
Yeah.
You did do it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I appreciate that, Niels. Everyone else, if you have any quick questions to throw in the Q&A, we have a couple minutes left. Give it a few seconds here to give you a chance to type something in. We do sincerely appreciate everyone being on today for today's episode and session involving Flows for Apex. I want to, message my very heartfelt thanks to everyone on the panelist team that's been on the call today answering the questions. And of course, Richard and Moritz, and of course, the whole Flows for Apex team that has been working on the product for so long. I mean, it's been years now. It's just amazing how far along it's come. And just remember, it's just an amazing time to be an Oracle Apex developer, whether you're using the native features of workflow that are built into Apex, or you're using Flows for Apex to extend the BPMN 2.0 capabilities far and wide. All right. Thank you, everyone, for attending. We'll see you next time on the next Apex Office Hours. Thank you to our panelists. Bye-bye.